For those of you who have been wondering, I want to make sure I say this now so I don't forget. This is a Mickey Mouse head, and I understand the proprietary issues when it comes to making Mickey Mouse stuff. However, I am not using this for resale. This is purely for my own family. So you will not find this Mickey Mouse head on my website anywhere. It's just strictly for my family. I am not reselling this. This is strictly for demonstration to show you how I do an applique. For the embroidery, the applique, I created this stitch file in Embroideryware. And I do have a different video on how to create an applique. These are the steps. So I'm not going to go into detail on this. You'll have to search my other video if you happen to have this digitizing program to figure this out. If not, you just buy a pre-purchased applique and go ahead and embroider it. So I'll show you the next steps. Usually I export this out into Sew What Pro and go from there. Okay, now I have Sew What Pro open. When I was in my other digitizing program, I went ahead and changed the thread colors so that when it came over into Sew What Pro, I still had my separate steps and it did not combine them. So what I would like to do now, I can go File and Print, set page, let's see, let's go to Print, and then I hit Print Template, and I press OK, and right now it's printing to my printer, and this file is 3.9 wide and 4.35 high for this newborn tee. So I print the template and then I cut it out. I've already cut it out. So here's my template that I will place on my t-shirt. So I lay my template out on my shirt and make sure that it's the size that I like before I go any further. And I do like this size. So now I'm going to go ahead and prepare my hoop for embroidering. This is the Sulky Sticky, and I'm going to put it on my flat fast frame. And we're going to put the sticky side down. This is the back of my frame, so that when I flip this frame over, when this frame gets flipped over, the sticky side will be right here. On my sticky paper, I draw crosshairs with an invisible ink pen, and disappearing ink pen, I should say, and I got this at Joann Fabrics. Works like a charm. I use Sulky iron-on tearaway on the back side of the t-shirt panel, the front piece of the t-shirt panel, but the back side. Approximately in the area that I want the embroidery. I fold my shirt in half and I crease it with my fingers, and that will develop a line, and then I draw a straight line down with my disappearing ink. Then I lay my template on the shirt where I want it. And I've already done this, so I know where I want it. And then I put a dot here and a dot here, because that's where I want it on my shirt. I'm going to have about a half-inch binding right here. And it's not going to take that down, it's just going to bind at the top, so I'm not losing any space. So my binding will go there. I like that placement. And I drew my dot here, I take this off, and next I will draw my crosshairs. I matched up my crosshairs and laid the shirt on top of the embroidery hoop. So next I'll take it over to my embroidery machine. T-shirt material that I'm using is very thin and stretchy, so I am changing my embroidery needle from an embroidery needle to a jersey ballpoint needle, specially made for jersey material. So I'm going to put that in my machine now. Another thing that I use in my embroidery machine is Gutterman's all-purpose thread. It's not the embroidery thread, but I love it. It's very low lint, so I don't have a lint problem, and it gives me the best results. I know I probably have some embroidering people shuddering right now, but I can honestly tell you this works for me. And when I switch over to the jersey needles and I have fine, thin knit material, it does not put holes in it. And that is so frustrating if you get holes in your embroidery. And this turns out gorgeous. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, I taped my template on for a guide, and I want to move up my hoop center, so I this. See that red dot? That needs to be in the center of my design. Your first step in an applique is to make sure that your stitch line is down. It's called a placement line. Then you take your fabric and you lay it over the placement line, and I have Heat and Bond Light on the back of this fabric to help prevent the fraying and to make it a little stiffer. So I'm going to lay that down over top of my placement line, and then I'm going to sew a tack down. Cutting line, I should say. I'm going to sew a cutting line. Right now my cutting line is stitching. So I will take this to my table, this hoop to my table now, and cut around the fabric at the cutting line. To cut, I use these duck-billed applique scissors, and I have my hooped fabric here. I pull up on one side and I trim as close to the edge as I can. This is what I'm doing. Cutting right up at that line. So this is what I'm doing so far. I'll continue around. Okay, now I'm getting ready for the tack down stitch. It's a zigzag stitch. next stitch is your satin stitch. But before you do that, you want to examine to make sure that your zigzag is covering all of the edges. And that way you know you've gotten right up to the edge. Okay? If not, now's the time to trim. Now I'm adding my final satin stitch, and that will go all the way around. The last step was to put the name Isaiah on, and look how nice that ballpoint needle does. No holes, no pinching, no gathering, because it goes down in between the threads of the t-shirt and doesn't pull it. Okay, so I took the shirt off of the hoop, and I tore off most of the tearaway iron-on stabilizer that I had. You can see I did not pull it all the way off. I've never had any problems doing this. I just use Tender Touch here, and I iron on Tender Touch on the back. Even through washes, it still stays on. Even this piece here. And I think maybe that's what prevents it from wrinkling and doing all of that. All I do is touch it up with a light iron, and it always looks great. So I never have had any issues with keeping that on. Now the only time that I do try to get down through the letters is if you can see it. Luckily with mine it does not show through. So I'm going to go ahead and iron this on. This is Iron On Tender Touch by Sulky. And this is the inspiration for my baby Snap Tap tee. I couldn't find the right color, so I made my own. I hope you enjoyed our sew along.